As part of the Elite Dangerous Content Creator Partner Program, we are sometimes able to gain early access to new content entering the game, and today we gained access to the next new ship and perhaps the single most anticipated ship in the entire history of the game, so far at least, the Panther Clipper MK2. These are some words that I genuinely thought I might not ever get to say on this channel in the 7 or so years so far that we've been making Elite Dangerous videos. I've flown the Panther Clipper in the game and I can now talk to you about what we found out about it. The legendary status of the Panther Clipper is well known at this point, and for this Zorgon Peterson flavoured relaunch of the vessel in the shape of the Mark II, we've already been through the internal specifications for the behemoth ship in a previous video. Those specs are on screen for you now if you've not seen them, and the only missing details from those that we were able to fill in today are that I can confirm our suspicions that the hauling monster has 6 utility slots, and whilst it wasn't officially confirmed by FDev before now, it is, unsurprisingly, fully Super Cruise overcharge capable. For the purposes of this first proper look at the ship, I did some light engineering on it before I took it out for a proper shakedown. The vanilla version of the ship will obviously do everything that an engineered Panther will do, but when dealing with such large extremes when it comes to something like the Panther Clipper, the upgrades that engineering bring become all more important. With that said, the little flying that I did do in the ship while it was unengineered did surprise me. I wouldn't describe its vanilla performance as nimble, not by any means, but I was expecting it to handle a lot more like trying to fly something like Wyoming than what I actually experienced. Once engineered, it handled somewhat better than a comparable Type 9 and frankly was way more comfortable and obedient to fly than the Imperial Cutter, which always seems intent on travelling in one direction and one direction alone until it receives a polite handwritten note on headed paper asking it to do otherwise. Again, I wouldn't describe the Panther as nimble, but it really isn't the absolute lump that perhaps we'd all been fearing. It's not lacking in speed either. With dirty drag drives I got a very respectable 395 meters per second out of it. For a ship of its size and job spec, that's not at all what I was expecting. With an A-rated G5 engineered for range FSD, you can comfortably expect to get 30 plus light years out of the ship, and the rather haphazard engineering that I did to bring the weapons and power plant up to a usable state took no account for mass or jump range at all, so more considered builds will almost certainly improve on that. While we're mentioning weapons then, let's delve into the hard points. If you didn't know already, there's 10 of them, and you can obviously make your choices, but my gut feeling, and indeed that of FDev's own pre-build version of the ship, is that turrets are the way to go. Whilst turrets are not generally recommended in most ship builds, as of this video all other ships in Elite Dangerous can't field 10 of them, and the mix of pulse lasers and multi-cannons that I used I found to be mostly very capable and more than enough to deal with NPCs in a Hazres for example, particularly when coupled with the Panther's ability to also bring a ship launched fighter into any combat situation it finds itself in. As a bulk cargo hauler then, the Panther Clipper felt very capable of defending itself, certainly in a PvE scenario, and as someone who likes hauling, usually in a T9, I felt a degree of confidence during my time with the Panther that I'd not gotten from my many hauling hours in a Type 9. To the point where I actually think I might enjoy the NPC pirate interdiction cycle a lot more in a Clipper. In my Mighty 9 they're generally something just best avoided, but with a suitably outfitted and engineered Panther I don't think things will end well for most NPC attackers. As far as the physicality of the Panther goes, it's undoubtedly an impressively large ship, but I have to admit it wasn't anywhere near as large as I'd expected it to be. The engines being mounted on the outside of the ship means that almost the entirety of the ship's hull is turned over to internal space, unlike the Type 9 which has its engines mounted internally. This has the net result that means that whilst the Panther is capable of hauling more than all of its rivals, it's actually only very slightly physically larger than the T9. And when it's sat on a large landing pad, there is still a significant amount of real estate available on the pad that isn't taken up by ship. And suffice to say, it follows then that it has no more trouble slipping in and out of a starport than a Type 9 Imperial Cutter or Anaconda. This of course has no bearing on the ship's in-game hauling capacity, and as far as that functionality goes, if you're in the market for a big hauler in the game, then I have no reservations whatsoever about recommending the Panther's maximum of 1,238 tonnes for that job. I do have to take a moment to mention the boost sound for the behemoth ship. Frontier's always excellent sound design team have once again absolutely smashed it out of the park. Please wrap your ears around this. It is for me one of the best engine boosts the team has ever produced. The exterior of the ship is extremely detailed, with almost the entire hull being covered in lots and lots of faceted panels, and the modelling detail work in the engine nacelles in particular is very impressive indeed, and really lends itself well to the sense of lifting a big ship. It's worth noting at this point that with previous preview early access ship builds we've had, the ships themselves appear to have not been 100% finished, and there were improvements that were apparent when the ships went on general early access release. We're fairly certain, for example, that the Corsair preview that we had flew very different to the one that eventually made it onto the ARC store, the latter being thankfully much better. With that caveat laid down, I do have some small niggles with the Panther. Whilst the engine mounts and thrust vectoring systems move on the ship, they are quite subtle, to the point that initially I didn't think they were moving. And when the Panther deploys an SRV, it, similarly to many Elite Dangerous ships, raises itself up slightly to allow the SRV to pass unobstructed beneath the ship. That didn't honestly seem a necessity with the Panther however, and whilst in the raised position, the on-foot access ramp no longer touches the ground. On the subject of touching the ground, it's a small bugbear of mine that the ships in Elite don't feature any kind of functioning suspension system, despite having to land on rocky and often wobbly surfaces. This invariably results in some of the ship's feet not touching the ground, and the Panther, given its size and the wide load base of the ship, is going to excel at this particular trait. None of these niggles are obviously problematic when it comes to the ship's core functionality, but they do detract a little from the sheen of what is almost certainly going to be a standout flagship for the game, especially when there is a new higher price tag attached. Unlike most of the previous new ships, Frontier have gone to the trouble of building a brand new bridge for the Panther Clipper rather than reusing and adapting an existing one, which is great to see, and it contains an awful lot of spare real estate towards the rear, including a hollow table display that you would normally expect to find in a starport shipyard. This spare space on the bridge, coupled with the accessible and correctly scaled on-foot access ramp and door at the front of the ship, the same as all the new ships, positively screams ship interiors, but without any actual confirmation from FDev, that's obviously just speculation at this point. The Panther has been somewhat of a surprise to me. It's more agile than I thought it would be, it's definitely faster, and it's more than capable of defending itself, a rare trait in a hauling ship. The cargo capacity is, for me, just the right side of bigger than everyone else without being game breaking, and its arriving is timely and most welcome in the age of bulk haulage ushered in by trailblazers, clearly by design. but it's not as physically imposing as I thought it was going to be. I loved my Type 9 and it served me so very well for so many long years, but when the Panther Clipper enters the game I can't honestly see a reason that my mighty 9 won't become a much loved museum piece. If you're looking for a bulk hauling vessel, it's the Panther Clipper Mark II you're after, there's no doubt in my mind. The Zorgon Peterson Panther Clipper will be available in early access on July the 22nd for 19,020 ARCs for the standard ship unlock or 38,000 ARCs for the Stellar version that includes a paint job and ship kit. Also, if you purchase the ship during the early access period, you'll also unlock the exclusive and rather lovely Panther Clipper Owners Club decal. How do you feel about the Panther Clipper now that you've heard more about it, and will you be picking one up in early access, and what do you plan on using it for? Let us know in the comments below. If you've enjoyed this video, remember to subscribe to the channel so that you see all our videos and community posts, and if you'd like to support our work here at the Burr Pit, you can also join us on Patreon. Links to that and everything else we've talked about in this video you'll find linked below. That's it for now. Thanks very much for watching. We very much look forward to seeing you next time.